Hello, greetings and blessings to everyone from Germany, Anenja Vihara. This is Ayya Phalanyani speaking. I'm very happy to be with you again to talk about the same sutta as the past 3 weeks. 3 Wednesdays already we spent our time thinking and talking about the Sutta Digha Nikaya number 34 up to 10. And now today we are with 4. And again, as always, I would like us to take a few minutes time to just breathe a little bit, to relax and to get ready to listen to the Dhamma. And so please just be there. Just sit where you are. Whether you are starting the day or ending the day, depending on where in this world you are located. You might prepare for bed, or you might prepare to go to work. In any case, it's good to hear the Dhamma, and it's good just to sit upright, to just sit there and know the sitting, and to breathe in and to breathe out slowly and softly. And we can take in a lot of wellness, of wholesomeness. And we let it into our bodies and breathe it out and share it with others. Just sitting there, breathing in and breathing out, relaxing. We're preparing ourselves to listen to the Dhamma. And you just relax. Sit upright in meditation. Relax doesn't mean that you hang or lay down. I would assume that you all sit and listen attentively. This is a little bit difficult to check here on StreamYard. It's easier in a Zoom. But however, be prepared. Prepare your heart. Open your heart and let the Dhamma in. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So, and the first thing I need to say is that when I checked what I was telling you last week about the threes, I said something about the concentration, and I need to correct that because that was about the concentration. And I said it would refer to this, the three kinds of concentration. But I said in this book it's slightly different, and it's the same. It's the applied thought and the sustained thought, and so it's basically what Bhante Sujata, what we read, what Bhante Sujata also said, and I said maybe that's not so close to what is written here. So there are different translations, but that is what I wanted to say first before we continue with the four things. Four things greatly help. Four things are to be developed. Four things are to be thoroughly known. Four things to be abandoned. Four things that conduce to diminution. Four things that conduce to distinction. Four things hard to penetrate. Four things to be made to arise. Four things to be thoroughly learned, and four things to be realized. And again, we have different translations to check what other people, other great teachers say and think about these texts and how they translate the Pali words. So we start with the four things that greatly help. And it is said the four wheels. The four wheels Chattari Chakani. It is also translated as situations, but really Chakani Chaku. I think this can be translated as the four wheels, no? That keep the Dhamma in motion, if you want to say so. And that first thing is to live in a suitable place. Living in a suitable place, that is not necessarily a monastery. That is not only at the foot of a tree. That can be also in your house, in your apartment, wherever you live, where there's a suitable place where you have a silent and calming, soothing place prepared for your meditation practice. And whenever you look at this place, whenever you come to this place, even if you think of that place only, it would soothe you. It would calm you down. That is a suitable place. Of course, for monastics, that is a monastery. It is not living in a household with families and so on. So there might be differentiations between monastics and non-monastics as to what is a suitable place. But for you, living at home, not being ordained, a little corner or even a room that is for your meditation practice prepared, that is a suitable place. That is one of the four wheels of the cart that carry you to enlightenment. So the next thing would be relying on good people. Sapurisu panisayo. Relying on good people. We talked about that before. I think it was in a third also. And relying on good people, we talked about what good people are. Who are the good people who are one of the four wheels of the cart? That are people who tell us when we do unwholesome, who tell us how to be good, how to be wholesome, how to practice, how to apply the Dhamma to our daily affairs. Good people are people who support our practice, who rejoice with a Dhamma practice that we try to uphold. They rejoice with a suitable place. They wouldn't come and say, look, we could play a gaming computer in the place where you have your Buddha statue. Good people would support you in your daily practice. And they are people who we can rely on. It's not that we need to ask ourselves, can I trust this person with my Dhamma practice, or do I need to be a little bit careful and maybe not talk to them about it? But no, you can rely on those people that they are settled enough in knowledge of what you do. They don't need to be Buddhists necessarily, but they need to be supporting, and you need to be able to rely on that. Here in the translation of Morris Welch, that would be the first thing, a favorable place of residence. And the second would be association with good people. So relying on good people or associating with good people. The next thing, being rightly resolved in oneself, or here, perfect development of one's personality. That means not that we shall develop a really strong self or a really strong personality, or that we are being a character and giving it to other people. Of course not. But that means that our resolve to practice for ourselves, even if there are no good people around us to support us, even then we for ourselves would know, I need to practice. Practice is good for me and I will do it. And if it's not more than half an hour a day, then I will do half an hour a day at least. So we have that resolve within us. And we try to develop more in and more into that direction, that there is no question about the Dhamma practice, that the Dhamma practice becomes our personality. And as long as we have a self and we know that we have a self, we can say, I'm trying to make sure that at least as long as there is a self, until I give up this understanding of having a self, I will apply myself to the practice of Dhamma. And then the fourth wheel of our cart that most likely will carry us to the final realization of Nibbana is past merits. Merits, yes, I know, is something that we all put away, like being something for the Thai people or for the Asians, maybe. That is not something that we Westerners need to do. But yes, we do need, and we have done in the past, or we have not done. And the merits that we have done in the past is the fourth wheel of the cart. Pubbekata punyata, the past merit. And even in this life, and even if you don't think much of making merits, you do it. Because sometimes you have wholesome thoughts, sometimes you have wholesome intentions, and sometimes you do practice, sometimes you share, and sometimes you rejoice, and all these things. Maybe they are not there all the time. Maybe because you have not applied yourself with a really strong resolve, or you have not developed your personality in that direction to have the Dhamma always present within yourself. But past merits can do the trick, and making sure that you now create merits that in one day will be past merits that you can rely on is the fourth wheel on our card. So these are the things that greatly help our meditation practice. That is something to start with. That is a good place to come from. That is a good base to build something up upon. So then we have four things that should be developed. What might that be? The four things are the Chattaro Satipatthana, the four kinds of mindfulness meditation, or the four foundations of mindfulness, depending on what translation you take. Here we have the four foundations of mindfulness. And it's not only a mendicant, but of course, mainly spoken to mendicants or bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, but also that applies to any practitioner of the Buddha's teaching. A bhikkhu meditates by observing an aspect of the body, or a body as a body, keen, aware, and mindful, rid of desire and aversion for the world. That is the very famous sentence, Kaye Kayanupasi Viharati Atapi Sampajano Satima Vineya Loke Avechado Manasam. That is the first foundation of mindfulness. So we're observing our body as a body, not more than that. A body is a body, breathing in, breathing out. It's a bodily, a physical thing going on. Also, when we look at our breath, we're just merely doing this. Kaye kayanupasi. We observe the feelings as feelings. Vedana suvedananupasi. And also keen, aware, and mindful, rid of desire and aversion for the world. So that means that when we are aware of what is going on in our body or what is going on in our feelings, then we try to always be very, very sharp. We try to apply our mind to really every single present moment so that we are really clearly comprehending what is going on in every single moment. And we do not cease to look at these. And we do this without desire or aversion for anything in this world. It's not that we have overcome this already entirely, but in this moment, we try not to be, how to say, we try not to be moved by desire or aversion. We try just to look at the things as they really are and not looking through our lenses of desire and aversion. That would be looking through the lenses of the hindrances. And in this moments when we are practicing the four foundations of mindfulness, already our concentration should be so high that we are not muddled by the hindrances anymore, at least momentarily. But I think we talked enough about the observing of the present moment and the four satipatthana. So we'll not going too deep into this. The same applies for the chittanupasi and the dhammesu dhammanupasi. So that is the observation, observing the mind as a mind or the heart as a heart, depending on what translation you refer to, or the principles, as Bhante Sujato says, or what do we have? The Dhamma. I would just not translate it anymore because we know more or less what it can be. And you can also, principles, the laws, the Dhamma. I would just stick with that. So we see these things every single moment. We try to be aware of them whenever we can. And that is during, of course, formal meditation practice. And that is also when we are doing our daily activities, during daily activities. Oh, now I see that there have been some that there is a question about the past Facebook user. We have past merits, so we are in Buddhasasana. We have Four Noble Truth and Vipassana and Paticca Samuppada. On our duty is practice serials. Am I right, Bhikkhuni? Yes. I can wholeheartedly say yes. There is more to that than the Four Noble Truths and practicing Vipassana. But if you do that, you do a lot. Then there is already a question, the Ayya, for somebody who is not proficient and at a beginner level, where do you think one should start? Is it better to focus on cultivation of metta, or can a beginner also do four satipatthana? That is as a practice. You can straight away, of course, do the four satipatthana as a practice. There is no doubt you can do this as even a beginner, depending on what you do and how you do it. It would be good to have a good teacher with you, because looking at the four satipatthana in some ways can be challenging, and a lot of things arise and come up, a lot of things of those that you don't want to see and that you decades try to hide and forget, and those come up when you practice the four satipatthana. So as a beginner, when you are presented with the practice and all these things come up and you don't have a suitable teacher with you, then this can explode around you, and you can just run away screaming from being so overwhelmed by what you experience. But if you have a good guidance, if you have a good teacher with you, then there's in no way any problem to start with the satipatthana. And a good teacher will always check whether your concentration and your awareness are leveled. And we need to practice the four satipatthana. We need our concentration on a high level, and we need high levels of awareness. And this might be something to start with, so that a person who is not so well acquainted with the four satipatthana, then we would check what they can do in order to bring concentration, so samadhi, sammasati and sammasamadhi, to a good level. And there might be exercises that you shall do first, but it's in no way that you need to start with metta practice. I'm totally not against metta practice. Of course not. It's a good practice. But if you do correct practice of satipatthana of the four Satipatthana, then all the four Brahma Viharas, Metta, Karuna, Mudita, and Upekha, will arise automatically because you purify your heart, and those things will have the power to shine through. And you remember, I think you were present at that talk where I told you that I was in a meditation center in Wat Lampung in Thailand for some years. And you could always see who is new and who is there since a few days or who is practicing well. So because when the people came from outside, from the streets or from their lives, everything that we were allowed to do was like 10, 15 minutes sweeping. So there was a rush to the brooms. And in the beginning, you would see the people like swoosh, 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 just to get some of that energy that you bring from the outside world. that seemingly needed somewhere to be put in. And after a few days or day by day, you would see the people being slowlier and slowlier, and in the end would clearly look with the sweeping, and when there's a little ant, you would watch that little ant walking by, and you would wait. In the beginning, there was no mindfulness of there being other beings, other creatures in this world. And after a few days, all this comes out by nature of a good practice. So, short question, long answer. Yes, you can do the four Satipatthanas straight away with a good teacher. So, now back to our texts. What four things should be completely understood? And that is, or these are the four foods. Chattaro ahara, solid food, whether coarse or fine. Or you could also say for chatu as foods, the nutriments. And I like nutriments better. I know I shall not judge, but because food, we only think of something to eat, the way we are eating our breakfast and lunch. But the nutriments, it's kind of broader to what comes next. The first food, of course, yes, it's the food that we eat, solid food, whether coarse or fine. But then there is more, of course, therefore, contact is the second. Passo. Contact. Why is contact a food or a nutriment? Now, think of a baby that you deprive of contact. This baby really will die. And if a baby without any contact survives long enough, then it will be damaged mentally. So we do need contact. Contact happens through the sense doors that we have. Through the eyes, we have seeing contact. Through the ears, we have hearing contact. Through the nose, we have smelling contact. We have touching, feeling, sensing contact through our skin. And we have, by thinking, we have contact to our mind or with our mind. So, and this contact is extremely important. It's as important as solid food. As a human being or as a living being, without, we die. But they are to be completely understood, right? So that means we shall not just go for the food and want it because we need it, and we would die if we wouldn't have it. So we shall understand what is happening in those moments when we take those nutriments. But let me continue with the third nutriment first. That is mental intention. Mano san chetana. So, intentions, why are these nutriments? Doesn't seem to be straightforward, yet it is. Because if we don't have any intentions, if there is no chetana, then we will just sit there. Or we would be like a veggie, not maybe in coma, but we would very unlikely not do anything. We would be just existing. But we have intentions, and that is a nutriment for things to become. Without intentions, we don't do anything. So a nutriment of the intention is the nutriment for something to happen. And basically, for us to exist, if you give up the intention to live, if there is no chetana anymore connected with living, or no will anymore, some would just vegetate. So this really is a nutriment, and consciousness as a fourth. Consciousness as a fourth is also interesting. Why that? So we have contact as a second. Then there is contact, and then Mano Chetana comes up, and we have ideas about what we do. But why? Because we become conscious of that contact that happened. So maybe there was a sound, a hearing contact, and that then becomes hearing consciousness. And that is a nutriment for our beings. And if we are deprived of that, say if somebody is in a retreat, then, oh, people are missing it so much, and they want to read and they want to write, and especially when you come to certain states in your meditation practice, then this nutriment of some input, of something that comes in contact and that your mind can produce, and that you can put your consciousness around, is so missing, and you want that. And also, if you deprive that from an infant, they would most likely die or become mentally unstable or sick. So this is really something, all these things are really something that we need. But what we do need to understand completely, or what needs to be thoroughly known, is that although we need these things to grow up, to become a decent human being that comes into contact with other people and can react in a certain way, we should never make ourselves dependent on it. And we usually, when we have the prospect of not having enough food. I remember that. I was getting so grumpy when I was hungry. So when I was deprived of food, even for only 1 or 2 hours, I thought that I couldn't deal with it. And I was getting grumpy. Now, with time, being a nun, I learned that no, it's just a feeling of hunger. And most likely, there will be a next meal. So I can just relax. And even as a bhikkhuni, there might be an offering of food again the next day. So, and if I'm feeling hungry a little bit in the evening, I don't need to get grumpy. I can just observe the feeling of hunger, and that's it. Not more than that. So what we need to understand is these things are necessary. I will die if I don't have enough food, but still or yet, I shouldn't make myself dependent on it and not be overwhelmed when I don't have it. So when you're in a meditation retreat, you don't have so much contact. And sometimes one is craving so much for a contact. And then the room and the 5 minutes report with the teacher is all contact you have. And and that can lead to such weird mental states, and to tremendous boredom that it seems to overwhelm you, and to a tremendous emptiness. And some people really get angry when they are deprived, or they want to throw everything away and think it's not worth it. And it's very, very interesting what can happen when we don't really understand these things. And later, when you have meditated a much, you're not craving for the contact so much anymore. You have it, but it's a burden. It's not something that you need to crave for, because you understand there is so much more contact than you would ever want to, and every single moment becomes a contact. because you are with it. And you come to know by being every single moment with these four satipatthana we have been talking about just now. And when you are with them every single moment, there is a contact every single moment. And even if it's only a contact of knowing. So this at some point in a meditation retreat becomes too much, and you start to not want it anymore, and you start to understand how this craving for contact is basically just want to chicken out from the deeper stuff that could happen. But let's continue. What four things should be given up? Pahatabba is the word. We had talks about pahana. That is the same word. The giving up. Four floods or four waves. However you translate the word ogha. Waves is the normal translation. Sensuality. Kamogho. So the wave that is crashing over you, the sensuality, the desire for rebirth, for views, and ignorance. These are the four waves that can flood us, throw us over, and carry us away so that we drown in them. Sensuality, of course, we can get lost in it. And the desire for rebirth, that is something that occurs knowingly rather in later states of meditation. In the beginning, we just have it. We just want to be born, and we want every single moment to be born, and we want it to continue, we want it to go on, and the next thing, and the next thought, and the next feeling, and the next whatever. And with that, we have our views, our opinions, and they are born of ignorance, mainly. Some, with luck, are born of the Dhamma because we have listened to the Dhamma. But yeah, it can happen that we are overwhelmed totally. So these things, sensuality, the craving for it, should be giving up. And this wanting the next thing, not only wanting the next rebirth, no. Really wanting the next thing. Whether that's a new telephone, whether that's the next moment of some input. And people nowadays, the young people, are so caught up in this. There's so much craving for every single moment. There needs to be an input. This is so tiresome, and we have young people coming here being so tired and overwhelmed that, and they don't understand why, but they in the same time need to check their phone every second, and when there is something, they need to answer straight away. So yeah, this is a thing that needs to be given up. You should be able to just sit there and be contented. Or maybe not for the rest of your lives. That would be applying for arahants maybe, but yeah, at least some time. We should learn to be contented. And for one who goes for enlightenment, yes, that needs to be given up entirely, as much as the views, as much as ignorance. What four things make things worse? And that is, oh wonder, sensuality, the desire for rebirth, views, and ignorance. So, Kama Yoga, Bhava Yoga, Ditthi Yoga, and Avidya Yoga. These are the things that when we are flooded by them, then when we are carried away by their waves, then we are bound by them. Yoga is like the yoke that binds two oxen together. So, and when we are bound to life by these things, or bound to other beings, to other things, then that makes things worse. So, what four things lead to distinction? And that is the four kinds of detachment. Chattaro Visangyoga, detachment from the bonds of sensuality. Kama Yoga, Visangyoga, Yoga. Detachment from the desire of rebirth, detachment from views, and detachment from ignorance. So in the group of fourth, there is really a big part and a big deal about these things: sensuality, the desire for rebirth, views, and ignorance. And when we are able to give these up, we would possibly, eventually, become free of those bonds, detached, free of the yokes, if you wish. So what things are hard to comprehend? Four kinds of immersion or absorption, if you wish, because it's talking about Chattaro Samadhi. The immersion or absorption liable to decline or conducive to relinquishment. Then a stable immersion, an immersion that leads to distinction, and an immersion that leads to penetration. So now let us see whether we have, or what other translations do we have here. Morris Welch says the four concentrations are: A, conducing to decline, Hana Bhagyo, conducing to stasis, conducive to distinction, and conducive to penetration. And Rhys Davis is translating it. The four concentrations, to wit, that leading to decline, that leading to maintenance, that leading to distinction, and that leading to nibbana. And what I like here is, of course, leading to decline. I think this is what they all say. Or leading to decline, or conducive to relinquishment. So a way of concentrating ourselves, or an absorption, say that is a right absorption. You may have heard of the story from that Dhamma teacher who was a meditation teacher in a meditation center. And one day he went to his teacher and said, "Oh, teacher, that person was a monk at that time. So, oh, teacher, I need to take the robes off because I fell in love with that one student of mine. I'm so in love with that woman that wherever I look, I see her face and I can't forget her." And the teacher just scolded him and said, "Well, you take the robes off. You have never been a meditation teacher. You have understood nothing." And he has taken the face of that girl as a meditation object and applied his mind to this object. So, in principle, he did the right thing, but with the wrong object. And that object didn't lead him to the decline of sensuality. It led him to the in contrary to more and more sensuality. So, you can have good concentration, but apply it to the wrong thing. I think an assassin would need a very strong concentration to be able to focus on or a hunter. They need a good concentration, but it's applied to the wrong object, or it's applied with the wrong intention, the intention to kill somebody, whether a human being as an assassin or a hunter when you want to kill an animal. That is just not the right thing. So that is not conducive to relinquishment in that sense, although it might be a tremendous and strong concentration. So a concentration that is really conducive to the relinquishment of that forementioned sensuality, right? That is what we need to do. And that is hard to comprehend. A stable immersion, or that we are able to maintain our practice. You as a lay people, you as unordained people living the household life and going to work and going to concerts and theaters and to whatnot, doing all the things out there in this world, it's difficult to maintain what you gained in a retreat, in your meditation practice. So it needs a concentration. It would need such a concentration that it is almost impossible for you out there to maintain that. And even when you're in a monastery, it's so easy to get to go astray and not have that stable absorption or that stable immersion so that you maintain your practice. And that is important. When you cannot grow, you at least need to maintain what you have and not fall back. Immersion that leads to distinction, that leads you to understand what is wholesome and what is unwholesome, what is the Dharma, what is not the Dharma, what needs to be done and what not need to be done. And these things, you really can distinguish so that you know where to go. And the Buddha had no question what is wholesome and what is unwholesome. There was no doubt, I would assume. But we sometimes do not know and wonder. And this distinction is not between, this is bad and this is good, or I like this more and than that, or so, but really a distinction between, say, the wholesome and the unwholesome, between what leads us to enlightenment and what brings us astray, what gets us away from enlightenment. And finally, an immersion or an absorption that leads to penetration, or that leads to Nibbana, as Rhys Davis translated. And it really has something to do with Nibbana. Nibbeda is the word. So we're already over an hour. I'm ready in a minute. What 4 things should be produced? Oh, there's so much more. The 4 knowledges. The knowledge of the present phenomena. That is in Pali just Dhammatalk. And you take that as however you like. I would take it as every single moment, just as it is. Inferential knowledge. Knowledge of the corollaries. Sometimes it's hard to pronounce these. To pronounce these things right. Igor, yes, I think perhaps another time. Your question is important. And awareness of the body, if you do it right, awareness of the body could be sufficient for overcoming all sensual desires. But I think it's worthwhile to talk more about it. And I see some of the people listening already need to go. So I would likely not continue and rush through, but continue next time with the fourth and then just jump into the fifth and see how far we get then. I hope that's all right with you. And see you next week then. Many blessings to you. Wherever you are, may you be free from any form of ill will, from any harm that wants to come from within you or that comes from around you from outside. May you be well and happy. And see you again next week. Bye bye.